Differentiation doesn't matter. And when I first heard that, I was actually quite livid. I was angry because I've spent my entire career, like most people, believing that that was the key to success. So that was the sort of introduction, and then obviously started to take a closer look. And part of the thinking is to be understood in the new thinking coming out of neuroscience, which is saying that we don't actually make most of our decisions in a very rational way. So firstly, we have very imperfect information about brands, and we don't go through a thorough process of comparing brands. In fact, we make quite intuitive decisions in the moment based on finding something that satisfies us. So that was kind of one side of the thinking. The second side, coming from sort of market forces and analysis of what drives markets, is the reality that there's an enormous amount of parity between products, and if there's differences, they're quite slight and insignificant, and they actually don't matter to people. So what we find, especially in categories where there are no barriers to choosing a variety of brands, it's actually quite natural for people to have a repertoire of brands, and they'll pick up whatever satisfies them in the moment, and they have about 2 or 3 brands that they'll move through. And that seemed to kind of in some ways strip us of the core thing that strategists did. So from when I first joined FCB, we had the 3 C's model, and the aim of it is to find that one thing that only you can do, that nobody else does, and that really matters to consumers. And you'd walk in and creatives would go like, and what's the one thing? And you'd feel like an idiot because there wasn't, and you kind of thought maybe you didn't look hard enough, or, or else you'd be angry with a client because they hadn't built enough differentiation into their brand. And what we're sort of finding is that being different, certainly especially for different sake, is very irrelevant. But having a real advantage continues to be a great thing, but the market very often copies that. So differentiation as a sustainable sort of thing is actually very difficult. If you just look at Apple, which had this huge advantage, essentially Samsung has copied a lot of the stuff that made Apple great. So what we're finding out is that what actually does matter, though, is not differentiation in the sense of what do you do differently, but distinctiveness. And what that really means is uniqueness. So it's not what you do differently, it's how you look and how you feel. And the big problem that we have in advertising is that people don't actually really care that much about brands and advertising. And so we filter out a lot of what we see, and we really only pay attention to the things that stand out. So that's the first thing. Brands have to be distinctive. It actually drives decision making, not in isolation, but it's quite important. It's a very distinctive, stable brand with some key sort of grounding visual icons, auditory icons that just help people remember you and notice you.